Any more time, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you. So I'd like to start by saying that I have a lot of information. This is an extremely complex and ongoing, right, changing by the day subject. So what I'm going to try to do is give you an overview and hit the highlights of the subject that I know about right now. I have a lot more information, so if there's something that you would like to know more about, I am certainly open to questions, and I am certainly open to continuing conversations after this event. If you would like to talk to me afterwards, if you'd like to email me or call me or whatever, I'm going to conclude the presentation with my contact information. Okay? So to begin, I would like everybody to pick up their square, please. I work with an organization called the Center for Human Rights and Constitutional Law. What the Center for Human Rights and Constitutional Law does is it visits, or it did, and while we were still being allowed into detention centers, is we monitor the condition of children in ICE and Customs and Border Patrol detention. What the law says is that children in detention centers need to be kept in safe and sanitary conditions. What this means in the best case scenario is that children, and this is obviously not my photo because I've never been allowed to take a photo, is that children are given a yoga mat and one of these Mylar emergency blankets. This is a real photo of Dilly, which is, if you guys, I'm sure you're all familiar with Liam, right? Yeah. The little boy in the bunny hat from Minnesota. This is where he was kept as well. These facilities are kept at about 50 degrees. When we go into those facilities, we have to wear gloves because we learned the hard way. We can't keep writing and keep taking notes without the facilities. I want you to visualize what that's like for new arrivals from Central America who've never really even been cold before in their lives, or even from kids from the United States to be on a mat. That's the best case scenario, right? That's the best case scenario. So when you are tired or demoralized, I'm going to ask you to keep this little square of Mylar, right? And think about the kids, right, under their squares of Mylar to see if that can help you remember what you're doing it for, right? Right? What you're doing it for the kids wrapped in their, this is the stuff they make birthday balloons out of, right? And this is what, best case scenario, this is what we're giving kids to keep them warm in detention. Don't worry, it's not going to be all depressing. It is going to be it's going to be depressing, but it's not going to be all depressing. These places, all of these detention centers, the kids call, and the adults as well, are called hieleras. They call them ice boxes because they're so cold, right? I have been in detention centers. The work I've done has been in Texas and Arizona. And these places, most of these places are not brick and mortar kind of places. They're tent cities out in the desert. And I'd ask you to think about how much energy it takes to keep a place in the middle of the Arizona desert at 50 degrees, right? The cruelty is the point. So they put kids in tents, keep them at 50 degrees in ice boxes, and then within the tent city, they put them in carreras, right? They put them in dog cages, and then they never turn the lights out, right? That rises to the level of torture, right, by the rules set by the UN, right? The fact that they never turn the lights out and that it's not cold enough to ever get comfortable. That partially answers the question of where the children are. When I promised what we know, what we don't know, and what we can do to help, right? Yeah. So part of the reason I'm giving you guys these little pieces of blankets is I'm going to ask you to think in terms of humility and privilege, for myself, faith, but whether you have religious faith or just faith in your ability to help, right? I'm going to ask you to think about faith and pride in your position, right, of where you are and your ability to do something to make it better, right? I was raised in the church, right? My father is a retired pastor, and I was raised, I heard this one a lot, to whom much is given, much is expected, right? I am very privileged, and I'm aware that I am very privileged, right? I have always attended churches that stood. My father says that churches choose to stand on different pieces of scripture, right? And some churches choose to stand on Genesis, and some churches choose a random piece of Leviticus, right, about homosexuality, right? My churches have always stood on Matthew 25, right? That we're going to feed the hungry and take care of the sick and visit those in prison, right? But when we do that, we need to remember that life isn't like Hollywood. Hollywood has trained us to think that the only way that we can affect change is within 90 minutes, right? With a big explosion and everything wraps up, right? All together in the end. And that's just not the way it works in real life. The way it works in real life is that we are small, but we're part of great things. Yes, we are bits, and by small and simple things, great things are brought to pass. So when I would visit the places I've visited, I didn't feel like I was doing very much, right? I didn't feel like I was doing very much, but what I learned over time is that I did actually do things to help. So I'm going to ask you to think about that as you go forward, right? That is what we can do to help. Every little thing you do is another drop in the ocean towards helping the situation that we're in. Okay, so why should you believe me? This is the ethos part of my argument. I've been a professor of Spanish since 1997 at Drury. I co-wrote and helped manage our federal camp grant in Monette and here in Springfield for the children of families of migrant students. I'm an executive board member of Grupo Latinoamericano here in town, working with the Latino population. I have worked both with the Center for Human Rights and Constitutional Law on the border in detention centers. I've also done a lot of translation work, mostly distance translation on three-way phone calls and WhatsApp phone calls, helping folks prepare their asylum claims and most recently appeals, right, with like a lawyer and me, and then the person in detention. So I have a lot of information, right, about a lot of stuff, but I decided that what I would focus on today was the situation of children, right, and what I experienced and what I know firsthand and what I've seen in Dilley and McAllen in Texas, right on the border, and then in Yuma and Phoenix in Arizona. So with the Center for Human Rights and Constitutional Law, Center for Human Rights and Constitutional Law is the organization that has, by law, the ability, the federal government has to let us in to monitor the conditions of children in detention, right? So we're the outside monitoring agency that goes in, and we interview. What we do is we interview children, and we have an interview document, and we ask questions like, are there enough bathrooms, right? Do you have access to soap? Do you have access to toothbrushes? Do you have, it's a checklist. Some of you, and then if the answers to those questions is no, then there's a class action suit, and we sue the government, and we keep winning, right? Well, no, but the needle moves, right? And the needle moves, and we get those things taken care of. It's a long process, but again, right, the needle moves a little bit. And the basis of all of that is the case from 1997, which was Flores v. Reno. So we've been doing this work not just during the Trump administration. Yeah, this is long before the Trump administration. What Flores v. Reno says, and this is still the settlement that was just renewed, the federal courts renewed the Flores settlement through 2027. So at least in theory, the Trump administration should be still held to the Flores agreement, right? Which sets minimum standards for the treatment and placement of minors. Originally, that was INS, and now it's DHS, right? The Department of Homeland Security, which is the umbrella organization that includes Customs and Border Patrol and ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, and the Office of Refugee Resettlement, right? That's all within DHS. So it is the agreement that governs how children, specifically children, are to be treated, right? There's a lot of detail to that, but the bullet points that I would highlight about how children are to be treated under Flores are: children may not be held for more than 72 hours, right? So that's always the first question we ask. How long have you been here? That's always the first question on that survey. How long have you been here? Children may only be released to a related adult. That is a relatively recent ruling. You may or may not remember that during the first Trump administration, a lot of children disappeared.
Yeah, and they're still not found.
And they still haven't been found. That's because they were releasing them to we don't know who. Right, so that's a relatively recent ruling that we got added. And children must be held in safe and sanitary conditions. This is one of the provisions of Flores that we keep litigating, because the original 1997 settlement just says safe and sanitary, and the government keeps pushing back on what is safe and sanitary. We had to litigate toothbrushes. They said toothbrushes weren't part of safe and sanitary. So like one of the first lawsuits about safe and sanitary, there weren't enough restrooms provided, and the poor kids were, having, the lines, they were having accidents because the lines were too long. They were, and then it was toothbrushes, and then it was soap, right? And they said soap wasn't safe and sanitary, part of that, right? Because it wasn't delineated. So that's what the organization does. We interview the kids. We interview the kids. We ask what the conditions are like. In the case of very small children, if children are under the age of 5, they allow us to, if the parents are there, they allow us to interview the parents. Along with the kids, to ask about this stuff, and then if there's usually things that we're specifically asking about. If enough people are brave enough to join the class action, because that's what they're doing, is they're joining the class, then we sue, and then But as you can imagine, that whole process takes a while, right? So I go. And I go into these terrible places, and I hear these terrible stories. And then it's like 2 years later that I hear that it's finally made its way through the courts, right? And now they have to do this. Yeah. Okay. So back to my blankets, right? So those first 2 visits to the border were kind of rough, right? Because I wasn't able to do anything for the specific kids that were sitting right in front of me, right? Because I wasn't doing anything for them. I was trying to better the conditions for all the kids, for the class, right? So on my last visit to the border, and so I would get an email from the CHRCL saying, we won this case, right? And now they have to have soap. Right. Or, and now they, right. And, and you'd think, oh, okay, so maybe my little drop of, and those interviews take a really long time. So during my visits to the border, I'd be there for 2 or 3 days, and maybe I'd get 10 interviews done. So it's not that many even. Right. But on my last trip to the border, and I think it was in Phoenix, going with Phoenix, I was one of the first kids who came in. He was maybe 8 And he came in, they brought him in for the interview, and he was wrapped in a blanket, and it was a real cotton blanket. And I had to stop because I was going to cry. I had to stop myself from crying because it was a real blanket instead of this stuff. And that visit was like, and they had soap and they had toothbrush, and of course it was still a terrible place that smelled like poo, right? And it was still 50 degrees, and they still never turned the lights off, and it's still never anywhere that kids should be. But again, this is the message, right? The stuff you do, even if it's the small stuff, right? It's incremental change, right? Everybody does their little bit of a thing, and then we can move the needle, right? You can make things better for some small amount of people. And if we all do that, right, we can make things better for some small amount of people. Okay. All right, so here we are in 2026. What do we know? That's one of the things I promised. What do we know right now? I follow all of this, every day to the extent that my soul will take, right? There's a limit to what my soul will take. The CHRCL has not been allowed in detention centers, as you might guess, since the inauguration, right? They're just not allowing anybody into anywhere. For a year now, nobody's been allowed in to monitor anything. So I'm going to say what we know, and I'm just going to qualify that because I'm a scholar and I'm an academic. I'm going to say what we know. This is the best information I have, right? I can't qualify it. And I see some people taking pictures. I'm happy to send this PowerPoint to whoever wants it. This is not proprietary information, right? I mean, I've got all my sources too, right? That's why I added the sources as well. Anyway, if anybody wants it, and I sent it to Kristen, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I'd be happy.
We'll make sure we get a copy.
Anyway, I'm happy to send it to anybody who would like it. Okay, so the Marshall Project, which is a group of journalists, they have been working pretty hard on trying to track the number of people in detention, right? ICE is supposed to publish numbers. Yeah, it's one of the things they're supposed to do. I will tell you, they're not doing pretty much anything they're supposed to be doing at this point, right? Either here locally, or nationally. So based on the numbers we have, and I'm just going to say, I think, and most of us think this is low, right? So we think they're underreporting, right? We think this is underreporting. It's a six-fold rise. It's 600% more of how many more children are being held in detention by ICE. At least 200 kids a day in detention. On the sometimes as many as 400. You can see the spike. The spike here is Trump taking office, right?
We're worried about that.
Yeah. So I mean, and so this is the daily number of people. So this chart is daily number of people detained, right? So this would be the Biden administration, right? And then Trump takes office, and you can see the spike. So that's going to include that's total numbers, which is of course going to include children. And I want to say too that one thing that we need to remember is going back to, and I wanted to explain about Flores, is children. If parents are picked up with children, or if in the case of what the evildoers are doing in Minnesota, if they're using the kids as bait to pick up the parents, right, and they're picking them up together, children should be released in 72 hours, right? That's what the law says. but they need to be released to a relative, right? And the parents that they're with have to sign something to allow them to be released. Now, if you're the parent in ICE detention, do you trust the government to take your kid and they say that they're giving, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of those parents are not, they're being told that their kid can get out, but they don't trust the system, right, to send their kid off, because it's not as if they get to take part in the handoff to this person. Another part of that problem is that a lot of folks, so you would need a relative to show up in person to come get the kid. Which one of your relatives is going to be willing to show up? I mean, right? Be willing. They, we know that's just an opportunity to snatch them too. So anyway, so the kids end up staying in detention.
Why Liam's mother didn't come out.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It's exactly why Liam's mother didn't come out. So this is part of the reason that there's so many children in detention. Okay. The ProPublica, thanks to my husband here for giving me the heads up, the ProPublica just published this just like 2 days ago. So ProPublica, if you don't know them as a publication, they're an online publication that specifically seeks to publish things that their motto is something like trying to speak truth to power. You know what I mean? So ProPublica, it's an online publication. Again, I gave the citation here. They have been getting letters, not sure how, but they've been getting letters out of Dilley, which again is that's the place that Liam was held. And they, on their website, have the actual pictures, the actual physical letters they're getting out of Dilley from kids. And it is, if you want like a real visual of what those kids are going through, and some of them are in English because of course some of those kids are citizens and they were born here, right? Some of them are in Spanish. And so I just gave you a couple of quotes just to give you an idea. Yeah. This is another thing that we know. We know not just from these letters about the kids getting sick. We know from a few of the attorneys one of the legal issues is that attorneys should have access to their clients. This is a basic tenet of the legal system, right? Attorneys are not getting access to their clients. Yeah, they're not even getting phone access to their clients. I haven't been asked to do any translation for 3-4 months now, because attorneys aren't even getting phone access to their clients. But a few attorneys who are on the ground in Texas have been reporting that not in Dilley, but in Ursula, which is another one of the huge detention centers, that measles is going crazy through the detention center. And so what they've done is that they have locked it down, which means that everybody's in solitary confinement. Which everybody.
Children by themselves?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. 21 days they have to be confined. And Liam, when he left, they were just starting to get his brain out.
Yeah.
He's gonna save
I don't
you.
want to see you trip.
Okay.
So sorry.
No, it's okay.
Liam, when he was taken out, when he was allowed to leave, they had just started having cases in that particular detention center.
Yeah. So,
Kids are alone.
and as a note, solitary confinement is also characterized as torture by the UN. Right. So they could fix all of that by letting kids out, right? Which is what the Obama administration did and what the Biden administration did, right? And they had rates, they had 80, 90% rates of people showing up for their court dates, right? It's not as if these people ran away. But, the cruelty is the point. The cruelty is the point. And it's this guy, Stephen Miller.
Yeah.
It's this guy, right? The cruelty is the point. He really believes that if we are terrible enough, people won't come here, right? That is his whole ethos. Also think he enjoys it, I personally. Okay. Okay, so continuing what we know. So overall, it's like a 75% increase of people held in ICE detention. Another thing that we know is that they're using more facilities for detention than even at the start of the year. Just in the last year, they're using more facilities, like a 91% increase. There's a couple of issues with this that that a lot of people are tracking. Two big ones are this issue of internal and external oversight, right? Yeah. The ability of both ICE and CBP, this Customs and Border Patrol, to follow their own policies and procedures, because they have their own policies and procedures that they're supposed to follow to monitor and police the conditions in their detention centers. But when they're exploding the number of facilities, they don't have the people or the manpower or the, you know what I mean? It's not set up to monitor all of those facilities. And again, there was a bipartisan bill in front of Congress before the election that was designed to give money to DHS to fund more judges, more money, more manpower to do that sort of thing. But Trump didn't want it because he wanted to be able to gripe about immigration. Okay, so there's no internal oversight within Customs and Border Patrol and ICE. There's no external oversight. They're not letting any of our external agencies look at these places. And conditions, there have started to be, just like in the last couple weeks, some videos getting out about the conditions in these places. Right? The biggest issues that are being reported, because it's getting bad enough that some of the employees are starting to, you call that when people whistleblow, right? Some of the employees are starting to whistleblow. And the biggest issues that are starting to be reported, and again, very, very last couple of weeks, is overcrowding, right? Too many people, the worsening medical care to the point there isn't any. Yeah. Abusive conditions, and then of course documented violations of standards. Because of course, again, ICE has standards. They have written standards, and they're not even able to follow them. So this is a video that if you go look for it, you can find it. It was actually posted to a Facebook page. Well, because it's a whistleblower, right? To a Spanish language Facebook page by an employee of ICE in Baltimore, Maryland on the 29th. So just 5 days ago, something like that, right? Just not like a week ago. And I know it's blurry, but it was just like secret cell phone footage. And so that's why I included so this is text from a newspaper basically describing what it shows if you watch it. It is, so this isn't even a detention center. This is like a holding room at an ICE facility that's not even designed to be a place where they're detaining people. And it's got about 50 guys in it, right? So there's not even enough room for all of them to lie down, right?
Like an office.
Yeah, it's like an office, right? There are no beds, there are no showers. It was designed for stays of no longer than 12 hours, right? They got a waiver for up to 72 hours, but they have no hygiene products, no medical care, not enough food, right? And then the voice in the video, the person recording the video says some of the detainees have been inside the holding cell for 10 days. This is the stuff that's leaking out. So we're left to wonder, right, what we don't know, right? We're left to wonder what we don't know. Right. So, we do know that people have been disappearing. The ICE has a detainee locator system. It is just as creepy as it sounds. You are assigned a number once you're picked up. They don't tattoo it on your skin, but you are assigned a number yet. Yeah, but you are assigned a number. But that whole locator system has become unreliable, right? And people are disappearing in the system. Okay. I don't know, you may have heard that some of the kids that have been taken from Minnesota, we don't know where they are, right? So this was just a couple days ago that, so I just gave it as an example, that Governor Walz went public with demanding to know, right, these kids from Minnesota, where are they? And he gave the example that it wasn't Liam, but it was a little girl who was released, and she came back to Minnesota and just reported seeing another little girl from Minnesota, and that was the first they knew that, like, where she was, or, you know what I mean, that she was even okay. And he's like, that's not right? That this is the only way. This is the only way we have information, because there's supposedly a system, as inhumane as it sounds, there's supposed to be a system where we can at least keep track of where these people are. And it's not, it doesn't work. It's non-functional. And I'm sure I don't have to tell you how terrifying that is for everybody involved, to have kids that are disappearing, right? We don't know where they are. We can't, okay. So the locator system's not working for adults or children, right? And the funding provided by the delightful One Big Beautiful Bill Act is clear that they're building upwards of 135,000 beds through the end of 2029. They are clear that that's how many people they want in detention. It's in the bill. Okay, and that is a thing you can do, right? I promise I'm getting there. That is an actual thing you can do. Also, this was late breaking enough that I didn't get it in my PowerPoint. The federal government shut down the El Paso airport for the next 10 days.
Yeah.
Oh, did they open it back up? Oh, okay. There was a lot of speculation that it was about this, right? That they were going to move a whole bunch of detainees in there. Okay. See, this is the stuff we don't know, because we're left thinking, okay, is this what we're doing? Are they moving a bunch of detainees in there because people disappeared? Are they going there? We don't know. This is why it's what we know, what we don't know, right? We're left grasping for straws. Yeah.
You know about anything about how the people that were in Alligator Alcatraz?
I mean, we don't know where, I mean, so the other issue with the folks, because those folks who were in Alligator Alcatraz, what timeline are we living in? That was in, as incredible as it seems, that was a while ago. If they have disappeared, they're probably not in the United States anymore, right? Some of the attorneys I've been working with, when people have been held long enough, one of the techniques they're using is people have been held long enough, whether they're here legally or not, right? After they've been held for long enough in these horrible conditions, sometimes they're like, please just let me out of here. I will self-deport, right? So an attorney and I were working with a gentleman in one of these detention centers who, you know, was here legally, right? but we were trying to, get him out, right? We were trying to work through the paperwork to get him out. And he was saying, please I'm just gonna, and they're trying to tell me, they're trying to convince me to sign these papers so I can self-deport. And the attorney was saying, oh my gosh, please, he was losing it. He was losing that thing you do with the translator where it's, like very professional. He's like, please convince him not to do that, because the issue is right now, if you self-deport, if you say, okay, I'll leave, there is no guarantee they are going to send you back to your country of origin. You could end up in Sudan. You're Mexican and they could send you to Sudan, right? You're Mexican and they could send you to Guatemala. There's no guarantee of where you end up. So do we know where those folks are? No. Do we know if they're alive? No.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate to say it, but I assume.
Yeah.
I assume that those kids that were lost in the previous Trump administration were trafficked.
Yeah.
One time when I was in, I think it was McAllen, and we were there getting ready. We weren't interviewing kids yet. We were like getting ready to interview kids. And so we were in a hall, and there was a really creepy lady getting a tour of the facility. And they were they were never deferential to us. We were a pain in their ass. And you know what I mean? They were super scary to us. And you know what I mean? They were very deferential to this lady. And we spent a long time discussing back at the hotel that night who that was, why she was there. And I think about that a lot, about who that lady was and why she got such special treatment and who possibly she could have been to, you know what I mean, in that place holding those kids. Yeah.
Why are, I'm sorry, this might be silly, but as far as the question, but no questions back. Why are they being, why are they not being deported? Why are we having concentration camps here there we go. Okay, so why do we have, if they're not following the law, why aren't they sending? I just don't, okay.
Hold on.
You don't have to go.
No, it's okay. Money.
Yeah. Okay.
Money. So I think it's actually on one of my sheets over here. 2/3, a little bit more than 2/3 of all of the detention centers are privately run.
Yeah.
And the federal government pays $200 per person per day. Yeah, $200 per person per day. So there are a lot of really rich people getting even richer. From this. That's why.
There's part of this too where Jacob Oseroff did. He did a piece called "Separated," and he followed the first Trump administration where they lost all those kids. And there's a lot of concern right now that the people they're bringing in, they're not even doing background checks. And there have been people that have applied as liberals, as fighters for the cause, and they just approving them in. They're not checking who people are.
Yeah, well,
there's been women also have had surgery to actually sterilize them in some of these facilities against their will.
Well, I mean, we don't know. We don't know what's going on in these places, but what we have to do, right? We don't know how many children are really being held. We don't really know where they all are, right? We have no idea when we'll ever be allowed into monitor conditions. And we don't know what the future is, because the law that really allowed us to make any progress on children's conditions, the Trump administration is trying really hard in the courts to withdraw from, right? Yeah. So that's actually the work of the CHRCL right now, is actually trying to protect the Flores Agreement.
And when they put children into foster care, they have to have their own space, they have to have all
Right.
that. And this is actually child endangerment.
Of course, I mean, it's torture. It's everything that, right? Okay, so, right, so we can wallow, right? We can wallow and cry, and I'm not saying we shouldn't because it's terrible. And the thing is that that's actually not helping the kids, right? Right? That is not helping the kids. So, what can we do? Right? So this is what we can do. Okay? And I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, but I think we can all use the pep talk regularly. Yes?
Yep.
Right? Right? We can all use the pep talk regularly. So, this is why I gave you the little Mylar blanket, right? Because when I think about it, I think that kid came in and he had a real blanket, right? And I helped do that. I didn't do it by myself, right? But I was part of a team that helped do that, right? So, what can you do, right? You can write. I spent possibly too long yesterday making postcards.
It was very therapeutic.
Right. One with Stephen Miller's face that says Stephen Miller's a domestic terrorist. Because seriously, I know we're all waiting for the big death announcement, but if you only give me one,
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
this is the one, right? There, right? So I have whole stacks of postcards over here. Take as many as you want. Yes, right?
Do you know his uncle is a neuropsychologist and his cousin has reported that they lived with the Holocaust? She just can't even get it.
I can't even. Okay, so take as many postcards as you want.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I have a sheet with if you're not sure what to write, I have a sheet with suggestions about what to write. Yeah.
Like, are you okay if we like share some of this stuff like on social media?
Oh God, yes. Oh yeah. So let me say that for a long time, for like most of my time working with these organizations, they asked us to lay low. Like they literally told us to lay low because they said, and this made sense, that if we would go see the stuff, the things happening, and if we would go home and like write editorials and give speeches, then the government would make the case that we didn't really care about the kids. We were just doing it for political points.
Yep.
And then they would use that in court to try to take away our right to monitor. So for like a decade now, I've just gone and done my thing, and I've come home, and then I go teach my classes, right? But then all of this hit the fan, and I got asked to do one talk, and I was like, you know what? They're not letting us in now, right? I'm not sure what the benefit for me laying low is, so I'm not laying low, right? So I'll send this whole thing to whoever you want to, right? I've got my contact information on the last slide. I'll get there, right? I have postcards that you can send. I've got a sheet that because I'm a professor, it's ethos, logos, pathos, right? Right? Okay, you're all laughing. You know what I'm talking about, right? Right? Whether you're talking to people, because talking to people is doing something too, right? You have no idea how many people have no idea. Right? How many low information people there are.
Yeah.
Right? And if there is a thing, I really truly believe, if there is an issue that will move people, it's kids in detention.
Yeah.
Right? Kids.
Files, and I feel like it's all connected.
Yeah.
I'm just out of place. I came here because obviously I'm Hispanic and African American, and I'm very concerned about what could happen to me or my mother, and I'm like planning with my friends. Happens I pray meditation, but I feel like right now it's not enough. So I'm trying to find ways where it's going to put me in the spotlight, but also be courageous to let the other people involved to do something.
Right.
That is, so thank you.
Well, yeah. So call, right? Boycott, and I would add boycott and make sure they know why.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really small writing.
It's on there, and also there are so many. I mean, one Google search will give you a list because the list gets longer every day. But that list is Home Depot, Target, Amazon, Whole Foods, and Hilton, because Hilton's putting up ice wherever they stay.
Also, just yesterday, in Branson, there was a meeting of the Board of Aldermen, and despite huge community turnout, people giving testimony saying we don't want ICE here, they all unanimously agreed to allow their local law enforcement to work spaces for this item, like arrest for detention and stuff.
Right. So when you do, right. So when you do right, I mean, yes, obviously you want to, I mean, there's no harm in writing to like Holly and right, the big guys. I believe that you might get way more traction writing to local people.
Yes.
I think it might be a really good idea to bury Arnott in postcards.
That's a great idea.
Right?
Yeah.
Let him know how pissed off we are that he's collaborating. I don't think it would be a bad idea. I know from Yolanda, who Yolanda is not technically president of Grupo Latinoamericano, but really functionally president of Grupo Latinoamericano, right? That the Springfield police chief does not collaborate, right? It wouldn't be a bad idea to write him supportive postcards,
Yes.
right?
Did that with the judge that.
Right.
that got people.
But I think it'd be a great idea to bury Arnott in postcards and remember that he's an elected official,
Yeah.
right? So on the back of the sheet, I kind of ran out of gas before I put all of the Missouri House members, right? Look up, but seriously, it's not just our federal officials, right? Because as somebody said somewhere along the way, we need to make it clear we don't want any ICE facilities in Missouri, right? It's not just on the federal level. We need to make noise locally and on the state level because it can't happen, and it can't, that 135,000 beds, that can't happen if we don't let it happen right where we live. Yeah, which is part of preparing, right? Which is part of preparing where we live, right? We can prepare and we can organize ourselves right here. Yeah, to take care of each other, right? To take care of each other, to train. I know one of the local organizations, the Immigration Alliance, right, is doing, right? And I sent them to a link to get the free whistles.
Good.
Right?
I have 1,000.
You have 1,000 coming, right? That's a thing we can do. Right? Okay, so we can do that. We can do that here. Yes? We can't fix Trump. I wish we could. We can't actually fix Stephen Miller. Yes? So maybe we focus here, and that's the thing that we can do. Yeah.
Trauma. So the concern people have is kids in detention.
Yeah.
While they're in detention, I would assume, just as when they're in foster care or other places, they're probably being assaulted or abused by other kids in detention who are themselves emotionally
Probably.
abused,
Probably.
or whatever. And I assume that none of the staff that they ever see has any training in dealing with the trauma or the cross abuse,
Of course not.
apart from abuse by guards, which doesn't happen, of course. So I'm just curious: has anybody found any information about this either before Trump or when they were in detention or now? Because
It's the excuse they give for never turning the lights out. They say it's for safety,
Yeah.
but
because the guards and the cameras work really well.
We're not sure for what.
I mean, but the thing is that even when we're allowed in to monitor the kids, they know we're coming, right? They tell us when we can show up, right? I mean, the last time when I was in Arizona, we pulled up to one facility, and as we were pulling up, there were buses of kids leaving.
I assume they choose which kids you get to talk to.
Right, and then we went in and we started interviewing kids, and after like a half an hour, they said, "Oh no, that's it. That's all the kids we have." And we're like, so even when we do get to monitor kids, they totally choose. So even when it's working like it's supposed to, we have very, you know what I mean? So there's a lot we don't. There's so much we don't know, even when it's working like it's supposed to.
In terms of preparedness, my husband's a provider, and right now there's a group of other medical providers that are communicating right now to see what they can do to help people who are too afraid to go to the hospital.
Mhm.
Around, medical operations.
Right, that's-
Really, I think the triage might be the best they can do, but still it's something to go.
Right, and on part of that, if I can give a plug to another, so this is a really significant concern. If you guys wouldn't mind passing these around. The issue for a lot of folks locally is now they're scared to leave the house, even for food, right? So locally, what we've seen is the majority of folks that have been detained and deported, right? Some people haven't been deported yet, have been guys on their way to work, right? So what we have is a lot of moms and kids who are functionally stuck at home. Moms who are scared to leave the house because if they leave the house and get picked up, now we've got kids on their own, and of course, who are terrified now what'll happen to the kids. So one of the things Grupo Latinoamericano did is we had an event where we made sure that everybody who wanted to had the forms where the legal forms for what you wanted to happen to your kids, you know what I mean? Like, so this is the person who gets my kids, you know, in the event that ICE actually would, you know, do what they're supposed to and follow these forms. But this is running into a real problem on the food issue, right? So people don't have access. So some people have lost their breadwinner, right? The guy, because they were on their way to work. Some people, a lot of women don't drive. A lot of women don't have a way to get to the store. There are significant barriers to local food banks getting there, right? A lot of the local food banks want your social security card, which even if you have one, nobody in their right mind who's Latino is, you know what I mean, just like handing over information to people in charge at this point, right? I mean, nobody's doing that. And then even if you do pass all those barriers, a lot of times, especially for more recent arrivals from really rural places, the food is completely unintelligible.
Yep.
Like if you're from rural Guatemala, what do you do with a box of stovetop stuffing?
Exactly.
Right? It's like,
They can't even go to their local stores.
right. So in partnership, so Drury and Grupo Latinoamericano and the Farm Stop downtown, I don't know if you guys know the Farm Stop, right? We are starting a food bank that's going to deliver. And so Yolanda and the Grupo Latinoamericano is going to handle the part where they contact the families and then, you know, so because there's the trust issue too, right? It's not like we're just going to like give out addresses to like random people to deliver food. Right. Yes. Right. But we're going to, the Farm Stop, we will buy food from the Farm Stop, the fresh food like eggs and onions and, you know what I mean? Right. And then the Farm Stop is going to give us free the space to house the shelf stable stuff like beans and rice and right that we're hoping to get donated. So if you would be willing to donate, either if you could pick up an extra bag of rice, right, at the store, or donate some money for eggs, that I would, you know, we'd be grateful, right?
Is there a place that we can do those donations that are not publicly announced so that we're not, like my son doesn't even like his wife or his child to leave the house anymore because he's like, they're brown. You can't, you know, I'm not gonna. They don't even go out to the store. Are there places that we can bring the products to that aren't going to?
I will come pick them up.
Create, okay.
That is my office phone number and my Drury email on that sheet.
That's wonderful.
Are you okay if I publicize this online?
I have already publicized it online. Now, to be clear, I have 3 students working with me. You might get one of my students.
That's fine.
But I control their grades. They're fine, upstanding young folk whose grades I control, and I promise they are not, you know what I mean? Yes. Yeah, right. So you may end up with one of my students instead of me. But I am screening the folks who might be coming to pick up the food. If you would, we will pick it up. Yes?
Is there any connection like with this food drive, like with the rest of the rest that are helping the rest?
This started with as a conversation that we had with the International Institute of Southwest Missouri.
Yeah.
Right.
Like volunteer there also, so I was just curious.
Right, and they decided to go in kind of a different direction. So we may end up collaborating with them some, but this is a separate project because I figured out I am basically using some of Drury's resources because why not? Because I'm using it as a student project, right? So it makes sense. So I'm kind of like leveraging. So it's, yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Hmm?
Are they much social programs are they?
We don't give a social work degree.
Oh,
These are Spanish majors that I have. And they're going to be applying for grants. They're going to be picking up and delivering food. They are, you know what I mean? They're going to be helping organizing. And this is going to become part of a certificate that we do. Anyway, that's longer term, right? And we don't give a social work degree, but if, you know, there might, I don't know, maybe longer term.
Okay, two things. I'm better about asking forgiveness and permission. I had seen this online
Mhm.
a few days ago, and
Yeah.
I have it as a printable PDF on my website.
Oh, cool.
So on this paper you guys all have, if you go to Community Together 417 and go under safety, there are like the ICE, and then this is on there as a printable PDF. So, and then I am also having an event in March, and I would like to, I'll reach out to you, but opportunities like that where we could do a drive
Yeah, great.
at an event.
That would be great.
Okay.
That would be great because the farm stop, if you haven't been there, because shout out to the farm stop for working with us, right? And she also has super great food because it's all local farmers. It's a win-win-win, right? Supporting it's at the corner of Walnut and South Street downtown. And what she does is it's a place where local farmers bring eggs and whatever fruits and vegetables are in season, right? And then she sells them, and so it's win-win-win. We'll be supporting local farmers, many of whom are immigrant backgrounds to begin with. And then it's that space that at one point was a grocery store, right? And so she's got a lot of space right now she's not using. So there's plenty of space in there for us to like put our stuff. So it ends up working up all the way around. So all of these things you can do, and it doesn't have to be, right? Like you can donate food and you can call or you can send a postcard, right? And all of it adds up because scale, right? Every little bit adds to the mass of people because there's a 3.5 rule, right?
Yeah.
Research shows nonviolent protests are twice as likely to succeed as armed conflicts.
Right.
And if they engage a threshold of 3.5% of the population, those that engage that much of the population, they have never failed. 3.5% of the population, guys. Right? We can get that. We can be part of 3.5% of the population. We can do that. Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's possible even to start engaging some of the therapists out there for even an hour or two, even with translator.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, kids who go through trauma, it changes their brains. This isn't just this moment. This is the rest of their lives if they've been traumatized.
The issue, and I just ask everybody to remember this too, is that the kinds of things that we all want to do out of for all of the good reasons, the things that we do that are going to come into contact directly with folks who are affected, you have to be super careful about that stuff.
Right.
That population is so scared,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And they don't know who to trust.
No.
And so right now, Right now, making sure people feel safe is the most important. And so I never do anything except through Yolanda because everybody trusts Yolanda, right? Or one of, I mean, I use Yolanda as shorthand, right? There are other folks in the community, but right, like I'm never gonna like just roll up because I am random white lady, right?
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, to add to that, the ICE agents that killed Alex were Latino.
Yeah, they were.
And so they can't even, one of the things that I had learned in California working with the different people in the different groups is, you know, people really stay close knit into their own neighborhood, into their own community. And now not only can't they trust the white people, they can't trust people within. Because I'm certain that many of those, the employees, because they need Spanish speakers,
Yeah, so the fear is crazy, and so we just have to be. There's so much we can do without having to, you know what I mean, create those kind of uncomfortable situations. And so I would just encourage us to focus on the things that we can do, right? And there are so many things that would be great.
Well,
It's just that much more. Yeah, exactly. If we had somebody asking, I would say yes, but. And the thing is that the food thing comes from a really increased need in the community. So Grupo Latinoamericano, we have some money, right? Because we teach Spanish classes, but the need has exploded. And right now, the way it's working for Grupo Latinoamericano is Yolanda gets a call about some family who doesn't have any food. And she goes to Walmart and buys food and then delivers it, which is like the least efficient way, right, to do that. And plus, I love her, but she's not getting any younger. And she just had a hip replacement, right? And well, it's the group's money, but I'm like, okay, so can we make this a system, right? Like, can we make this more effective, better use of the money, better system, all of that, especially since the need's not going to get any smaller, we don't think, right? The need is growing as we're, you know, so yeah, right. So this comes from the community being, you know, more and more need out of the community, not just, again, us like pretending that we know what's best for everybody.
Bring dry goods to
The farm stop, I need to check in, make sure with, I have not asked Carissa if we can do that. Carissa runs that place. I would think that would be okay, but I have not asked her yet. So yeah, I think she's gone this week though. My next meeting with Carissa is next Thursday. So I will, I can post it in the group, right?
Yes.
As soon as I get an answer, I can text her. And then I can get an answer from Carissa if it might be okay for people to drop stuff off directly there, and because she's got a space for us in the back.
Where should like folks look out for that information?
On the page, on the Facebook page. Is that a?
Is there anywhere else?
Is there anywhere else to post? Where else?
Newsletter you can sign up. We've also got a website, greaterspringfieldindivisible.com. I work on trying to get a lot of that information.
Is there? What would be?
Give me your email and I'll
I
send
just
you
don't
stuff.
have Facebook.
Right. I know. I want to get information out. I don't.
Yeah, I'll do a whole thing.
I think I misunderstood.
I'm gonna do a donation page.
So
Well, that'd be amazing.
it's a good clearinghouse. for a
Sherry's-
lot of
Okay, great.
whoever's asking that
Okay.
question down there.
Yeah, community together 417. I'll do that tomorrow.
Yes,
I'm curious, and I may have just missed it, you mentioned the fathers being picked up and the mothers being, in Greene County or in our area, have there been kids detained? And if so, how does that work?
I am not personally aware of kids having been detained. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened. I am not aware of kids having been detained. All of the people I am personally aware of have been adults, and the vast majority of them, it's traffic stops.
Yeah,
It's traffic stops.
that's what they.
It's people driving, and it's because ICE has deputized every single sheriff's deputy, and they're all acting as ICE agents, and so they will use any excuse. And somebody called Yolanda the other day to tell her a story. So again, this is a thumbs up to the Springfield Police Department. That a lady, so it was a lady who had gotten T-boned by a white lady. It was a Hispanic lady who had gotten T-boned by a white lady. And so Springfield Police responded, and the sheriff, the deputy showed up, and they started talking to the Hispanic lady who was the victim in this situation. And the police had to intervene and say, no, she's the victim. You can leave her alone now. And they actually ran them off because they were pretty sure that they were getting ready to pick her up. So, yeah, but that's another thumbs up to our local Springfield Police Department, just as and that's why and it was in our board meeting. She told us that story.
4% have any issues and their traffic violations, all the people being held over in the detention center.
And so, and in that case, the traffic issue wasn't even her fault.
No.
And they were.
They don't care.
So I said it last night at the meeting. As of last night, Mia had fed me the information. There's 292 people in Greene County as of last night, yesterday afternoon. 11 of them have charges. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I guarantee you those 11 with charges are probably minor traffic tickets they forgot to pay or something. Yeah. Okay. So this is one of my favorite quotes, right? This is me pep talking again, right? It's from the Talmud, right? Don't be daunted by the enormity of the grief, right? Right? You're not obligated to complete the work, but you're also not allowed to abandon it. Right? Okay. This is me. Yes. It's also on the flyer. That's right. And if you're interested, that's the Group of Latinos webpage. Those are, this is the CHRCL, and this is, the immigration if you want advocacy and big ticket items for advocacy, the Immigration Justice Campaign has a whole section on their website of issues that you can work on. So it's a good resource.
So are you aware of the action that's happening next Tuesday? The citizens impeachment flyer?
No, I am.
We're supposed to be going to our local representative's office to Burleson. We're going to be
Okay.
there between 9 and 5.
Okay,
It's an all-day event, so if you want to go and
cool. When?
probably not.
No.
There's people in Jefferson City that are going to be there too.
I couldn't be in
So-
class, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So Springfield, or our district is covered, but there's a bunch of other districts in Missouri that are not covered.
Okay.
So I don't know the details of why they're not being covered. I think the city has a little different vibe than out here, but
Yeah. I mean,
anybody's interested?
everything we do, I swear, everything we do, right? Everything we do helps, right? It's scale, right? And Brad and us, my husband over here, ladies and gentlemen, so supportive. He's amazing. We went to an event like a month ago with Stephanie Hine, two of our Missouri representatives, Stephanie Hine and Betsy Fogel. And they made the point of saying that when our state representatives get postcards and letters, it really makes a difference, right? They run scared. They're like, oh my gosh, people are paying attention, right? So it does. They were like, it really does make a difference if you write to them. So don't be.
It doesn't make a difference to mine because I have written, called, left personal notes. I've never heard a word that hard.
Okay, but they were saying it may feel like it doesn't make a difference. I know it's really frustrating, and it may feel like it doesn't make a difference. But if you do that, and other people do that, right? And we all do it. If it's scale, right? It's scale. If we bury them, right, with postcards, please take a postcard on your way out, right? If we bury them in postcards, right? Maybe we move the needle. No, we will, right? We will. Si se puede, right? Si se puede.
That I had heard that I love is that get a separate notebook and document every